What I am about to tell you might unsettle you. The truth is, nobody cares. Nobody cares about you the way you do. Think about that for a moment. Nobody cares about your dreams, your fears, your secret hopes, or that mistake you made last Tuesday, with the same intensity that you do. In the grand, chaotic theater of life, you are the star of your own show, but to most people, you're just a background character, a fleeting image in their peripheral vision. They may see you, they may even have a passing thought, and then, in the very next second, they forget. They move on to their own worries, their own deadlines, their own dramas. We live in a world desensitized by a constant flood of information, a relentless fire hose of content where everyone is screaming for attention. And if you're under the age of 30, this truth might sound harsh, even cynical. It might feel like a cold, empty void. But if you're over 35, if you've navigated a few decades of adult life, that same truth might be the most liberating news you hear all day. It might be the key that finally unlocks a cage you didn't even realize you were in. Because the relentless pressure to perform, to be seen, to be validated, is a young person's game. It's a game fueled by insecurity and the desperate need for a map, a game where you constantly look to others to tell you if you're on the right path. When you're in your 20s, you're obsessed with the what-ifs. What if they think I'm not smart enough? What if they don't like my outfit? What if I say the wrong thing at this party? You live your life for a phantom audience, a jury of your peers that you imagine is constantly watching, judging, and keeping score. Every decision, from the car you drive to the pictures you post, is filtered through the imagined gaze of others. It's exhausting, isn't it? This constant, low-grade anxiety of being perceived. But then, life happens. You get a mortgage. You have kids, or you choose not to. You build a career, you lose a job, you navigate illnesses, you watch your parents get older. The abstract anxieties of your youth are replaced by the concrete, tangible challenges of adulthood. And somewhere along the way, between paying bills and scheduling dentist appointments, you have a profound realization, a quiet epiphany that dawns on you not with a bang, but with a whisper. You realize you just don't have the energy to care anymore. Not in that all-consuming way. You stop caring about the influencers and what they're selling. You stop caring about what your old high school friends are doing. You look at your life, with all its beautiful imperfections, its messy realities, and you understand that your focus has to be here, within these walls, within your own heart. This isn't cynicism, it's wisdom. It's the hard-earned peace that comes from understanding what truly matters. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote in his private journals, "It never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about the profound absurdity of that statement. You spend 24 hours a day with yourself. You know your own intentions, your struggles, your silent victories. Why would you trade your own self-assessment for the fleeting, uninformed opinion of someone who doesn't even know your full story? Why live your life for an audience that isn't even paying attention? This isn't just philosophy, it's backed by modern psychology. There's a concept known as the over-justification effect. In simple terms, studies have shown that when you take an activity someone naturally enjoys, something they do for the pure, intrinsic satisfaction of it, and you start offering them external rewards for it, like praise or money, their internal motivation actually decreases. The activity starts to feel like a chore, a performance. The why shifts from because I love it to because I want the reward. And isn't that what we do with our lives? We take the beautiful, messy, authentic process of living and we turn it into a performance for external validation. We chase the likes, the promotions, the compliments, hoping they will fill a void. But they never do, not really. Because an external solution can't fix an internal problem. The peace you're looking for isn't out there in the applause of the crowd. It's in here, in the quiet approval of your own conscience. Letting go of this need to be watched is the first step toward true freedom. It's the moment you stop being a performer and start being an architect. You stop curating a life and start building one. The question is no longer, what will they think? The question becomes, what is true for me? This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual unfurling. It's the courage to wear what makes you comfortable instead of what's in fashion. It's the strength to say no to a social event you don't want to attend, without feeling the need to offer a long, elaborate excuse. It's the quiet confidence to pursue a hobby or a passion simply because it brings you joy, whether or not you'll ever be good at it or if it will ever make you a dime. When you stop performing, your real work can begin. The work that isn't filtered or broadcasted. The internal work. The kind of work that builds resilience, not reputation. The kind that doesn't demand attention but earns respect through quiet consistency. You start living a life that would make sense even if no one ever found out what you did. And that is the measure of true character. But if letting go of what others think is the first step, we have to face a much bigger, more formidable enemy. It's an enemy that knows all our weaknesses, an enemy that whispers doubt into our ear when we are at our most vulnerable. It's the enemy inside our own minds. The inner enemy. Confronting the court of public opinion is one thing. Learning to dismiss its judgments is a crucial first step. But as you turn your gaze inward, away from the imagined audience, you come face to face with a far more cunning and relentless adversary. This enemy knows every one of your insecurities, every one of your past failures, every single button to push to send you spiraling. This enemy is your own mind, your own ingrained patterns of thought, and specifically, the two most powerful saboteurs of growth, the subtle poison of entitlement, and the destructive wildfire of emotional reaction. Let's start with entitlement. It's a dirty word, isn't it? We associate it with spoiled children and out-of-touch celebrities. None of us wants to think of ourselves as entitled. And yet, it creeps into our thinking in ways so subtle we barely notice. Many of us grew up hearing the tough love wisdom from our parents or grandparents. They'd look at us with that knowing gaze and say, "The world doesn't owe you a thing." When we were young, it sounded harsh, a dismissal of our youthful struggles. We nodded along, but secretly, we didn't quite believe it. We believed in a hidden ledger of fairness. We believed that if we worked hard, if we were good people, if we followed the rules, life would eventually reward us. And for a while, maybe it did. But now, as an adult navigating the complexities of your 30s, 40s, and beyond, you see the cracks in that ledger every single day. You see the person who cuts corners get the promotion you deserved. You watch someone who is reckless with their health seem to float through life without a problem, while you do everything right and still get a worrying call from your doctor. You pour your heart and soul into a relationship, only to have it end for reasons you can't comprehend. And in those moments, a bitter thought takes root: this isn't fair. I deserve better than this. That thought, as understandable as it is the seed of entitlement. It's the expectation that life should conform to our wishes. It's a trap that conditions you to wait for fairness rather than work with reality. When you believe the world owes you comfort, every hardship feels like a personal betrayal. When you believe you are owed praise, every silence feels like a stinging rejection. The great Stoic teacher Epictetus, a man who was born a slave and understood hardship better than most, gave us the antidote to this poison. He said, "Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well." This isn't defeatism. It's not about giving up. It is the most profound form of clarity. The root of so much of our suffering is not the pain itself, but our resistance to what is. We cannot master a reality that we refuse to accept. We cannot grow from a lesson we deny. When we believe we deserve a different life, a different outcome, we grow bitter. And bitterness is a poison you drink yourself, while hoping the world around you will feel sorry for you. It never does. To truly grow, you must accept that nothing is promised. Not success, not comfort, not even justice in the way you envision it. Every single day is earned. Every breath is a gift. The very fact that you are here, alive, with a mind capable of reason, is your power. It is your starting point. The moment you release your white-knuckled grip on how things should be, you are free to work with things as they are. And that is where your power begins. But even if you conquer the trap of entitlement, there is a second, far more immediate enemy to face. It's the enemy that hijacks your day in a split second. It's the chain reaction that begins with a single spark, a rude comment, a piece of bad news, a driver cutting you off in traffic, and ends with your entire emotional state in flames. This is the enemy of reactivity. Most people live their lives as walking triggers. One critical email from the boss, and their focus for the rest of the day is shattered. One passive-aggressive comment from a family member, and they're rehearsing angry arguments in their head for hours. Their peace is fragile, constantly held hostage by external events and the unpredictable behavior of others. They are slaves to the whims of the world. The Stoic, however, is different. The Stoic does not react. The Stoic responds. And in that single word change lies the entirety of human freedom and power. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're in a team meeting. You've spent weeks on a project, poured your best work into it. You're proud of it. As you're presenting, your boss interrupts you. In front of everyone, they point out a flaw, questioning your judgment with a sharp, critical tone. Now, what happens in that instant? For most people, the reaction is automatic, a biological storm. A surge of hot adrenaline floods your system. Your heart rate quickens. You might feel a tightening in your chest, a flush in your face. Your brain's ancient, primitive alarm system, a tiny, almond-shaped region called the amygdala, is screaming, "Threat! Threat! You are being attacked." This is your fight-or-flight response, hardwired into your DNA. Your mind instantly floods with defensive thoughts. They don't know what they're talking about. I did everything right. How dare they humiliate me like this? You might lash out, getting defensive. You might shut down, unable to speak, the words catching in your throat. This is a reaction. It is unconscious, automatic, and utterly disempowering. You have just surrendered control of your emotional state to your boss. Now, let's rewind that same scene and play it the Stoic way. The boss interrupts with the same sharp, critical tone. The same biological signals fire. The adrenaline still surges. The amygdala still screams its alarm. The Stoic feels all of this. They are not a robot, they are human. But here is the crucial difference. They have trained themselves to create a space. A tiny pause. A fraction of a second that feels like an eternity. In that sacred space between the stimulus, the boss's comment, and their response, they take a quiet, unnoticeable, deep breath. This single breath engages the most evolved part of their brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain, the part responsible for logic, reason, and self-control. It sends a signal back to the frantic amygdala that says, "Stand down. I've got this." Instead of being a victim of the emotional flood, they become an observer of it. They notice the anger, the embarrassment, but they do not identify with it. It is data, not a directive. And from that place of calm observation, they choose their action. They make eye contact with their boss, their posture calm and open, and they say, in a steady voice, "Thank you for that feedback. That's an important point. Let me make a note of it, and I'll review the data and get back to you this afternoon." What just happened here? They didn't fight back. They didn't crumble. They took control. They de-escalated the public confrontation. They validated the other person's input without necessarily agreeing with it. They bought themselves time to think rationally. And most importantly, they preserved their own dignity. They walked out of that room with their self-respect intact, not as a victim, but as a leader. That is the difference between reacting and responding. That is power. This space, this pause, is where all your growth lives. It's where you stop being a puppet pulled by the strings of emotion and start becoming the person who is led by reason and values. This isn't just a strategy for the boardroom. It's a strategy for life. When your teenager screams, "I hate you," and slams the door, the reaction is to scream back. The response is to take a breath, give them space, and approach them later with a calm heart, saying, "I love you, and when you're ready to talk, I'm here." When you get an unexpected medical diagnosis, the reaction is to panic, to spiral into worst-case scenarios. The response is to breathe, to acknowledge the fear, and to ask the doctor, "Okay, what is the next logical step?" When you are betrayed by someone you trust, the reaction is to be consumed by bitterness and a desire for revenge. The response is to feel the pain, to grieve the loss, but to choose to focus your precious energy not on retribution, but on your own healing and on fortifying the relationships that remain. In every scenario, the external event is outside of your control. The storm will come. But your response is always, always your choice. You cannot control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. This isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about refusing to be enslaved by them. It's about understanding that your feelings are visitors. You can acknowledge them, you can listen to their message, but you do not have to let them move in and redecorate your entire house. Confronting this inner enemy, the entitlement that whispers, "It's not fair," and the reactivity that screams, "Attack," isn't about fighting it with brute force. It's about building something stronger. It's about laying brick on top of brick, creating a fortress of character inside yourself, a citadel of reason and peace that no external storm can shake. And that requires real, deliberate, daily work. The real work. So you've faced the truth. You've acknowledged that the world isn't watching, and you've begun to turn away from the inner enemies of entitlement and reactivity. You've created that sacred pause between feeling and action. This is the turning point. But what do you build in that space? Acknowledging the problem is the diagnosis, what follows now is the treatment. And it's not a magic pill. It is the slow, deliberate, and sometimes tedious process of laying a new foundation for your life, brick by brick. This is the real work. It is the unglamorous, often invisible labor of building a fortress inside yourself, a fortress of character so strong that no external storm can ever find a crack. This work stands on three foundational pillars: radical ownership of your mind, the unbeatable armor of consistency, and the strategic power of silence. Let's begin with the first and most crucial pillar, radical ownership of your mind. The Stoics believe that your mind is the only territory you will ever truly own. Not your house, which the bank technically owns. Not your job, which can disappear tomorrow. Not your reputation, which is a fragile thing held in the minds of others. Just your mind. It is your last kingdom of freedom, the final frontier of true sovereignty. And yet, most people have abandoned this kingdom without even realizing it. They guard their smartphones more fiercely than they guard their thoughts. They spend more time polishing their resumes than they do refining their beliefs. They rent out their mental real estate to the cheapest tenants, to the outrage of the 24-hour news cycle, to the curated illusions of social media, to the anxieties whispered by their colleagues, to the fleeting trends that demand their attention. They open the gates of their inner citadel to every passing disturbance and then wonder why they feel scattered, anxious, and defeated. They are not rulers of their own inner world, they are subjects to its chaos. Marcus Aurelius gave us the ultimate declaration of mental sovereignty. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is perhaps the most practical advice ever given. Think about the things that cause you, as an adult in the modern world, the most stress. The volatility of the stock market. The stability of your job in a changing economy. Your health, or the health of a loved one. The political climate. How much direct control do you have over any of these things? Very little, if any at all. This realization isn't meant to make you feel helpless. It's meant to redirect your energy. You cannot control the storm, but you can control the captain of your ship. And your mind is the captain. When you stop looking outward for peace and start fortifying your inner world, everything changes. You stop asking, when will the world get better, and you start asking, how can I get stronger? This is what radical ownership looks like in practice. It means becoming the active architect of your thoughts. You begin to treat your thoughts not as unchangeable facts, but as building materials. Some are strong, like granite. Others are weak and brittle, like crumbling sandstone. Every day, you have a choice. Which materials will you use to build your internal structures? Will you build with thoughts of resentment, comparison, and fear? Or will you build with thoughts of gratitude, resilience, and purpose? This requires a process of brutal inner honesty. It means sitting down and examining the beliefs you hold. Where did they come from? Did you consciously choose them, or were they planted there by your upbringing, by culture, by a painful experience from a decade ago? Many people are walking around, living their lives based on a software program that was installed in their childhood, and they've never once thought to question if it's time for an update. Radical ownership is the process of reviewing that code, line by line. You keep what serves you, and you deliberately, consciously, rewrite what does not. This is not easy. It is the hardest work you will ever do. But it is the only work that gives you back control. So you've decided to take ownership. You've decided to become the architect. Now, how do you actually build the fortress? This brings us to the second pillar, which is the engine of all transformation, the unbeatable armor of consistency. In our culture, we are obsessed with talent, with genius, with flashes of inspiration. We love the myth of the overnight success. But the Stoics, and indeed modern science, tell us a different, more truthful story. The psychologist Angela Duckworth, in her groundbreaking research on grit, proved that the greatest predictor of long-term success in any field is not talent, it's not IQ, it's not social intelligence. It is a combination of passion and perseverance. It is grit. It is consistency. Think about it in your own life, in your own career. You've seen it. You know the person who was a natural, a brilliant talent who could have gone all the way. But they only worked when they felt inspired. They waited for the muse to strike. And then there's the other person. They weren't the most gifted in the room. But they were the most dependable. They showed up every day. They put in the hours, especially when it was boring. They practiced the fundamentals over and over again. They were not swayed by mood or motivation. They were moved by commitment. And if you look 10, 15 years down the line, who is further ahead? It is almost always the consistent one. Consistency is the great amplifier. It is the compound interest of self-improvement. One small, disciplined act may not seem like much. But repeated over 100 days, 1,000 days, it becomes an unstoppable force. Building your character is like a stonemason carving a statue from a block of marble. It is not accomplished with one mighty blow. It is accomplished with 1,000 small, precise, and repetitive taps of the chisel. Each tap, on its own, seems to do nothing. But the accumulation of those taps is what reveals the masterpiece within. This is where most people fail. They get a burst of motivation. They go to the gym for a week. They meditate for 3 days. They start a journal. But when the initial excitement fades, when the results don't come immediately, they stop. They are looking for a dramatic event, but growth is a quiet process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon run in a series of small, daily jogs. The real work is choosing to do that small, essential thing, over and over again, until it becomes as automatic as breathing. It's choosing to read 10 pages of a book instead of scrolling through your phone before bed. It's choosing to take the stairs instead of the elevator. It's choosing to spend 5 minutes planning your day in the morning instead of immediately checking your email. It is keeping the promise you made to yourself yesterday. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. You build self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of all confidence. This kind of work is not glamorous. No one is going to give you a medal for choosing a salad over a burger for lunch. No one will applaud you for getting up 15 minutes early to stretch. This is the invisible work. But this invisible framework is what will hold you together when life inevitably tries to tear you apart. And how do you find the clarity to do this work? In a world that is screaming for your attention, how do you even hear yourself think? This leads us to the third and final pillar, the strategic power of silence and solitude. When I say solitude, I know what you're thinking. You're a busy adult. You have a job, a family, a commute, a mortgage. You have 1,000 obligations pulling at you. Solitude sounds like an impossible luxury, something reserved for monks on a mountaintop. But I'm not talking about that kind of solitude. I'm talking about finding strategic pockets of silence in your noisy, everyday life. It's about reframing solitude not as an escape from your life, but as a necessary tool to live it better. When you are constantly bombarded with external input, emails, podcasts, news alerts, conversations, your mind never has a chance to process anything. It's like eating meal after meal without ever giving your body time to digest. You become mentally bloated, unable to distinguish your own thoughts from the noise you've consumed. The real work is to intentionally carve out moments of non-stimulation. It can be simpler than you think. It's the 10-minute drive home from the office, with the radio turned off. Just silence. It's waking up 15 minutes before the rest of the house wakes up, sitting with a cup of coffee and just being. It's taking a walk on your lunch break and leaving your phone at your desk. These small pockets of silence are your forge. It is in these moments that the mental dust settles. It is here you begin to hear your own voice again. You can check in with yourself. How am I really feeling? Am I living in alignment with my values? Did the way I handled that meeting this morning reflect the person I want to be? This is not self-indulgence, it is strategic maintenance. You cannot steer a ship in the right direction if you are perpetually stuck in the engine room, deafened by the noise of the machinery. You must occasionally go up to the deck, in the quiet, to check your bearings and look at the stars. This is the work. It is owning your mind as if it were a kingdom. It is building your character with the slow, steady armor of consistency. And it is using the strategic power of silence to find your direction. It is not easy. It is not exciting. It will not get you 1 million likes on social media. But the reward it offers is something that no amount of external validation could ever hope to purchase. It is a quiet, unshakable strength. It is a peace that is not dependent on your circumstances. It is the reward of becoming the person you were always meant to be. The quiet reward. You have done the work. You have walked through the fire of self-discovery, faced the inner enemies, and committed to the slow, unglamorous process of building yourself from the inside out. You have embraced the silence, chosen consistency over intensity, and taken radical ownership of your mind. So what is the prize at the end of this difficult road? What is the reward for all this thankless, invisible labor? It is not what you think. The world will not suddenly roll out a red carpet for you. You will not receive a golden trophy or a standing ovation. The problems of life will not magically disappear. The stock market will still be volatile, your boss might still be difficult, and illness and loss will still be a part of the human experience. The true reward of this journey is not a change in your circumstances. It is a fundamental, irreversible change in you. It is a quiet reward, a peace so profound and a strength so deep that it becomes the new foundation upon which you live your entire life. The first part of this reward is a profound sense of lightness. It's the feeling of finally putting down a heavy suitcase that you have been carrying for decades without even realizing it. This is the freedom that comes from letting go of the need to be understood. For so much of our lives, we exhaust ourselves trying to explain our choices, justify our paths, and manage the perceptions of others. We over-explain why we're changing careers, why we're choosing a different parenting style, why we need a weekend to ourselves. We feel this desperate need for our story to be validated by others, for them to look at us and say, "I get it." I approve. But when you do the real work, you come to a powerful realization: you do not owe anyone an explanation for your growth. Your journey is yours alone. Your silence does not need to be filled. Your choices do not need a defense attorney. You are not here to fit neatly into the frames that others have built. You are here to build your own. And when you truly internalize this, the need to be understood simply falls away. It is replaced by a quiet confidence. Your actions, your composure, your newfound sense of peace, they become the only explanation necessary. Your presence begins to speak more loudly and more truthfully than your words ever could. The second part of this reward is the quiet power of becoming. This is where the abstract philosophy becomes a living, breathing reality. The Stoics didn't just talk about ideas, they were relentlessly focused on embodiment, on practice. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote to himself, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is the ultimate destination of your journey. It is the shift from knowing the path to walking the path. It's no longer about reading the books or listening to the podcasts. It's about becoming the person those books describe. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just talk about resilience, but who embodies it in the face of a setback. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just praise the idea of composure, but who practices it when their emotions are raging. This process of becoming is not a single event. It's 1,000 small, daily choices that accumulate over time. It's the choice to respond with kindness when you feel like reacting with anger. It's the choice to maintain your discipline when you feel lazy. It's the choice to seek wisdom in a moment of confusion. Each of these choices is a chisel tap, carving away what is weak, polishing what is strong. And then one day, without any fanfare, you'll catch a glimpse of it. You'll be in a stressful situation, one that would have sent the old you into a tailspin, and you will notice a strange sense of calm within you. You will observe the chaos from a place of stillness. You will speak with a clarity and authority you didn't know you possessed. And in that moment, you will realize you've changed. You have become the person you were working to be. You have become someone the old you would have looked up to. Someone not built on the flimsy scaffolding of external praise, but on the solid bedrock of self-earned character. Someone not defined by their status, but by their substance. This is the true Stoic reward. It is not the applause of the crowd, which is fleeting and fickle. It is the quiet, unwavering respect of your own soul. It is the peace that comes from knowing that, no matter what storms may come, the fortress inside you will hold. It's a peace that doesn't demand calm circumstances, because it comes from your capacity to remain calm through any storm. It is a power that is not flaunted, but felt. A power that doesn't need to shout, because it sustains. This is the truth that most people spend their lives running from. Nobody cares. And that is precisely why you must. You must care enough about yourself to do the hard, internal work. You must care enough about your one precious life to stop wasting it on performance and start investing it in purpose. You must become the primary caretaker of your own mind, your own growth, your own soul. Not for applause, not for followers, but for you. The Stoics never asked for the world's attention. They asked for their own discipline. They asked for their own focus. They asked for their own virtue. And in doing so, they gave the world, and themselves, something incredibly rare: men and women who became better, not just louder. So stop waiting for someone else to care. Stop begging for someone to notice. The world may not be watching, but you are. Your highest self, the person you are capable of becoming, is watching. Let that be enough. Let that be everything. So tonight, I want you to do something different. Instead of ending your day by scrolling through the curated lives of others, I want you to take just 5 minutes for yourself. Sit in the quiet. No distractions. And ask yourself one simple question. Not, what did I accomplish today? Not, what did I get done? But a much deeper question, who did I become today? Did I become a little more patient? A little more resilient? A little calmer, a little wiser? Let the answer to that question shape your actions tomorrow. Let the quiet, relentless process of becoming, not appearing, be your life's greatest work. Start there.